Proving you have been injured by a defective product. If you sustained injuries or you suffered from other types of damages because a product that you used was defective, you may have a liability claim which will be specifically called a defective product liability claim. Proving that you have a valid claim is not always that easy, however, if you are familiar with the steps that you need to take to prove your case, you may be more likely to win it. Different states may ask you to prove different things in order for you to win the case, however, regardless of where you live, you will need to prove the following elements: that you sustained an injury or you suffered a loss or losses, that the product you were using was defective, the product's defect caused your financial loss or injury, you had been using the product exactly as you were supposed to. We are now going to examine each of these elements a little more closely. You sustained an injury or you suffered a loss or losses. Regardless of what happened to you or what might have happened, without an injury or evidence of a financial loss, you may not be able to make a claim. Let's imagine that you were using a cell phone and the battery started to leak. You dropped the phone because you didn't want the fluid to burn your hands. In dropping the phone, it landed on and then knocked over an ornament that landed on the floor but did not break. Because the ornament did not break, you did not suffer a financial loss. Although the cell phone may have been defective and it could have caused you harm and destroyed your ornament, there was no physical injury or financial loss. Without a physical injury or a financial loss, you will not be able to make a claim. The product is defective. You will need to prove the product that caused your injury was defective. This is not always as easy as it sounds, and being able to prove it will entirely depend on the type of claim that you wish to make. If there was a manufacturing issue. If you would like to make a claim that a manufacturing issue caused your injury, the process may be easier than you think. For example, if the battery was clearly damaged when it had been inserted into the cell phone, you could win your claim. If there was a design defect. If the product, the cell phone, for example, was correctly manufactured but the issue lies with a flawed design, you may have trouble proving this. You may be asked to demonstrate that the flawed design was somewhat dangerous. However, even if it is found that the cell phone's design was flawed, the supplier or manufacturer may not be found liable. Trying to prove that a product's design is dangerous could be a lot more complicated than you think. In some cases, there may always be an element of danger when using a product. For example, riding a motorbike is dangerous to some extent and there is always the risk of serious injury whenever the motorbike is ridden. However, just because you crashed when you were riding the motorbike, it does not necessarily mean there was a safety issue with it, unless of course it was a brand new motorbike and the brakes failed to work. Did the manufacturer fail to warn you of a hazard? If you sustained an injury because the manufacturer of a product failed to warn you of a hazard, you may have to demonstrate that its dangerous quality is not ordinarily obvious to consumers. In cases such as these, the court may determine whether the instructions and warnings that the supplier or manufacturer provided were sufficient. For example, if you suffered burns because your new cell phone's speaker was turned up a little too high and there was a risk that turning it up too high could cause it to catch fire, you should have been warned about the risk. If you were not informed of the risk, you may have a strong case. If, however, your new cell phone came with warning signs or stickers, your case may revolve around determining if the warnings were adequate. The product's defect caused your injury. If the product's defect caused your injury, you will have to prove this. In some cases, proving a defect could be fairly easy, but in other cases, it could be quite difficult. For example, if a tire on your new motorbike came off the moment you got up to 30 miles per hour, you could say that this was caused by a defect. However, if you had previously taken the tire off for whatever reason, the manufacturer of the motorbike is likely to argue that the motorbike's design had not caused your accident. You had been using the product exactly as you were supposed to. Ideally, you would have been using the product exactly as it was intended to be used. If, for example, you decided to ride your new motorbike around a skate park and you injured yourself, you could not blame the manufacturer of the motorbike, as it is not intended to be used around a skate park. If you were using the motorbike as you were supposed to and you sustained injuries due to a tire coming off, then you may have a case. The manufacturer of your motorbike would expect the consumer to use the motorbike in the way that you used it. If it is found that you did use it in the way that is expected, you may have a case. Contact a product liability lawyer. If you think you have a valid defective product liability claim, please contact a lawyer as soon as you can. However, before you do so, it is important that your claim meets most or all of the above requirements regardless of which state you live in. If you are unsure as to whether you meet the requirements again, please speak to a lawyer as soon as you can.